Hello, I'm Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent McCory in for Hashtag the U-Word. It's Thursday, September the 2nd. This is Africa 54.
South Africa's soaring unemployment hits women the hardest. A Ugandan mother of two shares her love of science with underprivileged youth. And adding up the terrible toll of Hurricane Ida on the U.S. state of Louisiana.
Many South African citizens are suffering as jobless rate has hit 34%, among the highest in the world, as the country's economy is stifled by the pandemic and July's riots. Black women are among the worst affected, with 41% unemployed. Linda Giventesh reports from Johannesburg.
Rebecca Huawei has been searching for a job to no avail since January. The recent graduate from a supply chain management program was already working in the sector when the pandemic struck, and she found herself laid off.
I apply almost every day, but the responses I'm getting, I'm sure I've applied more than 30 times since, but I've only gotten like 2 responses back. There's not much out here. I even actually started applying outside the country.
About 585,000 South Africans lost their job last quarter, a period marked by strict COVID-19 lockdowns. The government says the total number of job seekers has reached 7.8 million, while an additional 3.3 million people have given up searching. While the pandemic is taking an economic toll, economists say it's compounded with a historically bleak situation.
I don't think we've turned a corner. I think unemployment is likely to continue creeping up. And unfortunately, it's women that will bear the brunt of all this.
2 decades of experience as a flight attendant for South Africa's national carrier didn't spare Charity Mokimane from job cuts last year. She never dreamt of retraining, but she didn't want to leave her husband as the family's sole breadwinner.
You know, when you keep hearing places are shedding jobs, then you think, oh, you know, I can't. I just decided to maybe try and look at other avenues of making money.
She adopted her mother's passion for baking and started selling cakes from her home. Economists say this type of informal entrepreneurship isn't captured in employment data. It means people like Mokimane are still getting by.
And I feel also slightly more in control of what happens to my life. And whatever happens, people have to eat.
But for young job seekers like Mwale, the disruption has curtailed dreams of building a career. The stress has also taken a toll on her mental health.
I did not envision myself depressed and sitting at home. It was not in my plans. I did not even imagine.
South Africa's economy did grow in the first quarter of this year, but economists warn unemployment will remain high for the foreseeable future. Faced with uncertainty, Mwale says all she can often do is pray. Linda Giventesh for VOA News, Johannesburg.
The deaf community in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, says face masks are making it difficult to communicate and lip read, as some are lobbying for the widespread use of transparent face masks. Clara Frank has more.
They're designed to protect people in the global health crisis. But in Kenya, members of the deaf community say face masks are cutting them off from the world. For street vendor Mercy Ayuma, it's not been easy. She usually sets up at one of Nairobi's busiest bus terminals from 6 o'clock each morning. Speaking through a sign language interpreter, she says most of her customers are now wearing masks.
When it started, it was very challenging, especially for the deaf, because we mostly read the lips of our customers to communicate. We must speak without our masks on too, in order to effectively communicate. Especially with people who do not understand sign language. With the masks on, it's hard to tell what they are saying.
Ayuma says police tried to arrest one of her friends for not wearing a mask while making a video call. It was prevented when Irma and others stepped in and showed the man's disability identification card. Organizations like the Kenya National Association for the Deaf are lobbying for the general use of transparent facial masks. Its president is Nixon Kakiri.
There are deaf persons who can write, I want this and this, but you see, there are deaf persons who cannot write. They have to purely depend on sign language. That's a challenge. Similarly, as KNAD, we suggested that they need to make clear masks, transparent masks, which are fog-free.
Kakiri says previous transparent masks they had were made from substandard materials, and Irma is skeptical. She says she tried selling transparent masks, but people complained that they were hot to breathe in and sales were low. Clara Frank, VOA News.
A Ugandan woman was inspired to take up coding when a 7-year-old son expressed an interest. Now she runs a club teaching underprivileged students everything from HTML to spaceflight amid Uganda's strict COVID-19 lockdown. David Doyle has more.
Mother of two, Shamim Wanesha, didn't want ongoing lockdowns to ground the sky-high ambitions of some of Uganda's children. Just before schools were closed across the East African nation, she founded the Supersonic Aviators. The club aims to keep children engaged and develop their interests in subjects like coding, aviation, space, and climate change.
Look at your browser.
And it's especially focused on girls such as Rachel Amuron.
I hope that one day I'll be able to discover biofuels which planes can use instead of fossil fuels which damage the environment.
Just 16% of Africa's more than 1 billion people use the internet, according to the International Telecommunication Union.
How to save a website.
But coding skills open up a world of job opportunities.
Click the file.
Analysts also say technological innovation is a quick way to promote lasting economic growth and development across the continent.
We learn different languages. For example, we learn HTML, JavaScript, and CSS.
Wanesha was inspired to learn herself after her 7-year-old son expressed an interest in coding and aviation. He became a sensation in Uganda for his impressive aircraft knowledge and budding flying skills. His mother used her own savings to start the Supersonic Aviators. It mainly caters to underprivileged children who do not have internet access. Classes are free of charge.
We do flight experiences, we do camp aviation, we assemble aircrafts, they watch movies about space to motivate them, they took presentations. This has enabled them to be creative, critical thinkers, and also problem solvers.
There are currently 25 supersonic aviators, ranging in age from 6 to the late teens. But there are challenges. Restrictions mean lessons have to take place outside her compound. Wanesha says it's sometimes too hot or it rains. With the length of Uganda's strict lockdown unclear, she's taken the club's activities online, determined that her students can keep aiming for the stars.
David Doyle of Reuters filed that report. There's been an increase in COVID-19 deaths across Africa since mid-July. However, there are concerns that limited testing may have resulted in an undercounting of COVID-19 related deaths in sub-Saharan Africa. Insufficient data collection may mean the incidence and prevalence of COVID-19 are not well known. In a recent interview with VOA's Mary Mgawe, Tanzania's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Liberata Mulamula, explains why her country has not been able to provide accurate COVID-19 related data to the World Health Organization.
Yeah, we are providing, but not maybe in the manner that WHO expects us, because, you know, we have a problem. I mean, a problem in the sense that Tanzania is huge. Tanzania doesn't have the infrastructure in terms of the data collection as maybe other advanced countries. So these are the constraints you always tell the WHO that will provide data, because there's nothing. Let me also make it clear, because people, they think we're hiding. No, we are very open, whatever we're able to collect, because it's not like here, somebody is sick. I mean, those with COVID, they will go to the hospitals. Most of our people, they don't go to the hospitals. They treat themselves through other traditional means, or they buy whatever medicine they get, but they don't go to the hospital. Then you don't get the data. Not everyone who is sick is in the hospital. So this is what they find. Maybe there's a gap. It's not because of our political will not wanting to share data. It's because of these challenges that not every Tanzanian report about being sick or reporting in the hospital. So this is where I think the challenge is. We are not anymore in the state of saying we don't want to report, but it's because we have this challenge of collecting data.
That was Tanzania's Foreign Affairs Minister Liberata Mulamula speaking to VOA's Mary Mgawe. Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei says it wants to train up to 3 million African youths to work with digital technology, including in cutting-edge technology such as artificial intelligence. Already, Nigerian students who participated in Huawei-sponsored ICT competition says the benefits, including possible job placements with the company, are enormous. But experts warn there could be potential negative impacts of China's growing tech influence in Africa. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
Youth student Mohammed Mayhaja will graduate from the Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria's Kaduna State, in roughly 3 months. He was one of a team of 6 from the school who represented Nigeria at the Huawei Global ICT competition in 2019 and finished in 3rd place. Huawei introduced the competition in Africa 6 years ago with the stated aim of finding and teaching highly skilled ICT professionals. It says the competition has so far impacted an estimated 2,000 African students.
We have been exposed to devices and technologies we've never experienced before. Normally, normal university students will not experience what we did experience in the competition. So I would say that this has made me to be much more IT inclined, so to say.
The competition evaluates students' competence in network and cloud technology. Mayhaja and his team's success in 2019 meant they were the best team in sub-Saharan Africa, and that inspired many other students like Hamza Atabo.
I was inspired by, when they talked about their stories, how they won the competition, and also when they were giving their prizes and everything. I just felt, okay, this is actually something to make sacrifice for.
Students like Mayhaja and Atabo are meeting Huawei's set objective, but critics say the company is a representation of China's accelerating presence in Africa's technology landscape. Huawei reportedly accounts for more than 70% of the continent's telecommunications network. ICT expert Samuel Adekola says China could use its competitive advantage for political ends.
It's really dangerous. So I cannot quantify how much they could go, because whoever has data, you can do a lot of things. Whoever has data has a lot of information. With data, you can extract a lot of information about a group of people, about the nation.
Concerns about China's presence in Africa grew in 2019 after a U.S. newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, reported that Huawei had helped Ugandan and Zambian authorities spy on their opponents. Huawei denied the accusations and turned down requests for an interview for this story. Even as students like Mayhaja and Atabo learn valuable skills, experts say Africa may have to pay a price for relying too heavily on foreign companies. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Halima William and her husband, Mark, have been trying to travel from Nigeria to Europe, but in Libya they encountered brutality until they were able to escape to a rare safe house. Lucy Fielder has the details.
Halima William and her husband Mark have found a rare place of refuge in Libya. But their journey from Nigeria to this point has been brutal. Halima crossed the desert in 2018, dreaming of reaching Europe and a better life. But in the Libyan town of Bani Walid, she was forced into prostitution.
Libya is not good.
Now she just wants to get out of Libya.
It's not safe. You can't walk anyhow. You can't go out anyhow. Kidnapping, you know, it's not safe. Raping. Libya is not safe, so that is why I want to move forward. And I know God is going to help me.
She managed to escape and found her way to a safe house, only to find her husband was already there. Mark had left Nigeria first in 2016.
I spent 3 months in prison.
Upon arrival, he was detained by armed men.
They beat me a lot, used electric to shock me, used wood to beat us.
Mark was eventually able to pay for his release. Their stories show the risks facing ever-growing numbers of migrants seeking safety and prosperity in Europe. Since Muammar Gaddafi was toppled in 2011, much of Libya has been dominated by armed groups who battle for control of territory and economic assets, including the illegal traffic in migrants. Now Halima and Mark have found shelter in the house founded by Al Hussein bin Gharsa.
We have done this because this is a city of generosity and hospitality, and because Libyans in general are a people of generosity and hospitality. We are Libyans and we believe in this city that it is our duty to do this work.
The safe house provides food and medical care and is funded by donations from the townspeople and local businesses. It currently houses 12 migrants, most of whom are from sub-Saharan Africa, and is also supported by the United Nations and medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières. But Halima and Mark hope their stay will only be temporary. They want to head for Italy, leaving behind the brutality they've faced in a country mired by a decade of chaos and violence.
That was Lucy Fielder of Reuters reporting. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, we'll have an update on the devastation in the U.S. left by Hurricane Ida.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Lina Khmoudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was the first cabinet member to take questions from reporters since the end of America's longest war. Joined at a Pentagon briefing Wednesday by the top U.S. general. As VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb reports, the U.S. is not completely done with Afghanistan.
Pride, pain, and anger on display at the Pentagon Wednesday, 2 days after the last U.S. troops left Afghanistan.
Now, we have just concluded the largest air evacuation of civilians in American history. It was heroic. It was historic.
War is hard. It's vicious. It's brutal. It's unforgiving. And yes, we all have pain and anger. And when we see what has unfolded over the last 20 years and over the last 20 days, that creates pain and anger.
A State Department official admitting Wednesday that in addition to more than 100 American citizens left behind, a, quote, majority of special immigrant visa applicants were also not evacuated, a group consisting of Afghans who helped the United States and their families. The Taliban again control Afghanistan, with General Mark Milley acknowledging the U.S. might need to coordinate with them further.
This is a ruthless group from the past, and whether or not they change remains to be seen. And as far as our dealings with them at that airfield or in the past year or so, in war, you do what you must in order to reduce risk to mission and force, not what you necessarily want to do.
Any possibility of coordination against ISIS-K with them?
It's possible.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin vowed revenge against the Islamic State Afghanistan affiliate at a time of America's choosing. The terror group staged a suicide attack against Kabul's airport in the last days of the withdrawal, killing 13 U.S. service members and at least 170 others. The Taliban are bitter enemies of the Islamic State offshoot that staged the attack, but the White House is in no hurry to pursue an alliance.
There's no rush to recognition from the United States or any country we've spoken with around the world. It will be very dependent on their behavior and whether they deliver on what the expectations are of the global community.
Expectations include letting Americans and at-risk Afghans leave and respecting the human rights of women, minorities, and journalists. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
As the evacuation of tens of thousands from the airport in Kabul was underway, the attempted rescue of dozens of veterinary staff and hundreds of animals from a British animal rescue charity in Afghanistan caught the attention of the media. Their plight led to a heated dispute between the charity and the British government. Henry Ridgewell has more from London.
Pen Farthing served as a British Royal Marine for 22 years. In 2007, he set up an animal sanctuary in Kabul called Nowzad, named after the first dog he rescued. The charity expanded, eventually employing 25 local staff, including 3 of Afghanistan's first female veterinarians. Farthing described their emotions when the Taliban seized Kabul on August 15th.
There may be reprisals because, obviously we're a foreign organisation. We've helped soldier rescues in the past, so soldier rescuing dogs. And as I said about the women, what's going to happen to them? They're going to be forced, because all our women, young women are single, so they can be forced to marry some Taliban fighter and they just live in the home, having these children. I dread to think.
Farthing initially refused to leave Afghanistan without his staff and the hundreds of animals under his care, a mission he named Operation Ark. His cause was followed closely in the British media as a dispute erupted between the charity and the government. Defence Secretary Ben Wallace gave this interview August 24th.
I genuinely believe that they will be allowed to move forward after, at a later date when that airport opens. But, frankly, I have to prioritise people at the moment over pets.
The charity chartered its own plane thanks to a donation from a US-based investor. Several days later, the British government authorised the plane to land and approved the evacuation of the 68 Nowzad staff and dependents and the animals. But the Taliban refused to let them through. Wildlife activist Dominic Dyer has been assisting the campaign from Britain.
And what Penn had was a letter from Downing Street effectively guaranteeing entry for these 68 people. And the Taliban said, well, we don't care what Boris Johnson thinks or says or his involvement. We care what President Biden has decided. And he said, no visas, no entry, and you're not coming in with your people. That was the conversation he had. It was the delays with the Ministry of Defence to get the flight authorisation that led to that problem. Because if we'd have got those people to that gate 3 or 4 days earlier with the list we needed to guarantee their entry, with the flight authorisation to land the aircraft, we wouldn't have hit that buffer of a change in American rules that basically stopped him getting his people through.
Britain's Defence Ministry did not respond to VOA requests for comment. Farthing escorted his staff away from the airport back through the streets of Kabul. He appealed directly to Taliban leaders via Twitter. On Saturday, the former Marine and his animals were allowed into the airport without his staff. They arrived back in Britain Sunday morning. Penn Farthing has rejoined his wife, who was evacuated from Afghanistan to her home country of Norway. With the Taliban now in full control, the fate of the Nowzad staff and their families remains uncertain. The 140 dogs and 60 cats evacuated from Kabul are now in quarantine in Britain. Nowzad says there have been many offers of new homes for the animals. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Power has been restored to about 11,000 residents of hurricane-ravaged New Orleans, but it will likely be days before the rest of the city and almost 1 million customers in Louisiana have full power. VOA's Mariama Diallo has this update on the devastation left by Hurricane Ida.
It is heartbreaking.
James Serigna lost both his boat and his home in the bayou town of Golden Meadow.
That sunk during Hurricane Ida. Busted the windows out, and the rain poured in, and it's made it sink. It's always beating on the pilings. I don't know what kind of damage I have until I pick it up.
Standing in what is left of his home, he remembers where everything used to be.
This living room and bathrooms back here, bedrooms over here.
Ida made landfall on Sunday as a Category 4 hurricane, 16 years ago to the day after Hurricane Katrina left more than 1,800 people dead. After Katrina flooded his home, commercial crabber Roy Comardell thought he could protect his house better by building his own levee. But it was a losing battle.
I thought I had it, but when the eye came, that's when it topped the levee. This is the height of it here.
A foot of water poured into his house. For now, he's not sure when he'll be able to get back to work, but he's trying to stay positive.
Hope and pray. But I mean, I guess we're going to have to live a little bit on our savings. Depleted.
66-year-old resident Algon Greenberry also had decided to ride it out.
It was rough. The wind, mostly the wind, you know. I mean, it came through, it was knocking trees down, and it come through pretty rough.
Inside the house, there is running water, but no electricity. Without air conditioning, Greenberry says he can tolerate the heat and humidity during the day, but it gets unbearable at night. He says he's not going anywhere for now, and is taking it one day at a time. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
Well, and that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.